What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka the Senator Chaos and Controversy. And the topic that I'm going to present for my video to jumpstart this discussion is pretty much looking at this country, America, as it being its own worst enemy. Okay? There was an ideology, so to speak, to where, upon its definition, America was the greatest country compared to any other in its existence. And at some point, by definition, it was promising to be just that. Like with anything else, nothing is perfect. There's going to be some flaws, some kinks to be worked out, some issues that needs to be resolved, or what have you. It's to be expected, you know. It'd be, how should I say, unreasonable to think that anything that is put into practice is going to be without flaw. But the concept of America being great was just that, a concept. What we see now is just America falling apart from within. I've said it many a times over. I've made the reference of how other countries looking at us and how, you know, some of the cliches that is attached to the definition or the identity of this country that I've said has become outdated and has just become just that, just outdated cliches. When speaking in regards to the military, when you see the wars that we have fought, and with the exception of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, anything prior or anything after that wasn't for our freedoms. It was to go attack other countries for their resources because we are that greedy and we like to police the whole world and we like to be the ones in control and, you know, and I'm sorry, it is what it is, point blank. And I'm sure people will argue against that point that I just made. Might not agree with me, and that's okay. But if our freedoms were actually being fought for, why is it that our boots are always on foreign territory and no foreign boots are on American soil? No one has ever invaded America with success. But we've invaded other countries. Fucked them off royally. And I could say they were fighting for their freedoms against us, not the other way around. But of course, there's going to be that technical jargon about democracy, the politics, and all this other bullshit. Whatever. When it comes to our social construct, there is, and many agree that there is too much division. There's too much that is put into practice that we willfully, with our own ignorance, entertain to allow the division to happen, to occur. Um, One has to do with, if it's not race, it's about class, rich versus the poor. Um, when it comes to looking at how we look at certain aspects of society in reference to those who are homeless, um, and how we have a blanket perception about how we perceive that issue. When it comes to the area in regards to drug addiction, how we judge people who have that addiction, but we don't look at or hold accountable the agencies that are responsible, or during a particular presidential era that has allowed the drugs to manifest and pretty much destroy particular areas and demographics within this country. When it comes to the health situation, um, people are drowning in debt. These pharmaceutical companies are got a thing with with your doctors and stuff, and it's like it's bleeding, and it's putting the American people in a fucked up position financially. Um, when it comes to how things were at one particular point in time in this country, where you know you went from the nuclear family where you had a father in the home, a mother in the home, and the children, and the tradition was that the husband went to work, the wife stayed at home, tended to the kids. The house note was paid, the car note was paid, or should I say the mortgage was paid, the car note was paid, insurance was there, food was put on the table, the utilities were taken care of, and there was a chance that you was able to save up for your kids to go to college. You know, that shit just fell by the wayside. When it comes to job security, you had at one point where you had jobs, whether you finished high school or did some college, you can come right out and get a job just like that and be able to start and support a family if you didn't decide to join the military or what have you. Okay? Um, and you was able to raise your family off of that income. Can't, well, you with extreme struggling from paycheck to paycheck, you're able to do that nowadays, but this wasn't the blueprint, I believe, initially for what the American people was to look at as it being the American dream. Not by far. When looking at when there are other areas in the world that are in conflict, America seems to always have their nose in other people's affairs, but neglect the issues within its own backyard, correcting the problems that are a continuing factor that's been neglected, unresolved, and pretty much, with the people that we have allowed with our own ignorance to be put in a position to be our overseers, to tell us what is good for us, while they reap the benefits off of our misery, our struggles, them being out of touch with reality. Or they may have knowledge of, what we go through, but initially, do they care? Not from what I've seen so far. Because telling me one thing and doing something to correct it, the checks and balances aren't adding up. People have their their opinions about the government. I would say rightfully so, because the government has failed us tremendously. The interest of the American people is not what the government is its initial priority, so to speak. It seemed like their attention and their energy is applied everywhere else but the American people. We are subjected to their laws that they pass, which I said before and I'll reiterate it and say it again. There's too many laws on the books that are unnecessary. Simplicity for me goes a long way, other than having someone having to conform to a bunch of unnecessary bullshit. And for the most part, the reason why a lot of these laws are put on the books is because it creates and generates revenue at our expense. The government is pretty much bleeding the American people dry. And like my father said, you can't get blood from a turnip. We shouldn't be living robbing Peter to pay Paul, paycheck to paycheck, struggling. Looking at the fact that when it comes to these corporations and their greedy concept and how they want to micromanage things and they don't want to give their employees a leg to stand on or some initiative to even want to be a loyal employee, so to speak. Like, what happened to those days? You got the issue with students drowning in financial debt because they owe on their tuition. And I was looking at another channel and they had a talk about this. And it's very interesting to say the least. You can get a loan or apply for some kind of grant or tuition to go to college, but to start a business, you pretty much are denied. But yet you can have these immigrants that come here, set up shop in black neighborhoods to own these like bodegas or these nail salons or these liquor stores or what have you, no problem. Some tax free for 7 years. But as an American, you have these politicians that tell you that they don't have money in their budget to cater or help out the American people. We saw what happened when it came to them trying to help us out during the pandemic and how that was a total fuck up. But yet, when you have the Ukraine situation that is currently, We have money without issue to just send them financial aid or give them a refuge here in this country. Upon seeing how they treated their citizens that weren't of their same complexion, who were students there in Ukraine. It is kind of difficult to conveniently ignore certain situations out of convenience. For most, it's easy to do that, you know. So that cognitive distance come into play, where they can afford to be out of touch with reality, especially when it comes to certain issues or problems that affect particular groups of people or people in particular, to where when they want to voice their grievances, you want to sit there and act like they're the problem and don't have a right to voice their grievances. Understanding is, I mean, not understanding is hard to understand. Then you got the whole issue with these laws that were put on books that are now being overturned. You have some states that want to be independent from America, Texas for one, and you're looking at how some of the ideology of the past is being hinted towards coming back into how should I say, coming back into play, and people are serious about, you know, kind of entertaining the ways of the past in the present. It's scary to even think that that would be entertained, especially here in this country. And if that happens, then the attitude that you have heard people express when it came to the Ukraine situation, imagine the attitude when that comes into play, if it is to be, how should I say, entertained, so to speak. And that right there would be the initiative for outside entities, say maybe a Russia or China, to say, oh, America is in conflict within itself because one group can't get along with another group and they're at war with each other. Now's a perfect time to put boots on the ground and, you know, would we be patriotic enough to put our differences aside at that time and stand united to fight against somebody who wants to fuck us over? Again, there is no real structure behind the things that I'm putting into this video. It's just things that I sit back and I analyze and I digress from me initially thinking or having initial thought about things where I think, okay, hey, we're getting better in this area, then something comes along and just puts us back. I don't know. Anyway, this video really ain't had nothing to do with anything in particular. I'm just digesting a lot of shit that I got on my mind um, after looking at all that has taken place and people just wondering what the future holds with what's next. What's next that's gonna be the thing to put us back? What's gonna be the next challenge that is gonna affect another group? Because when people say, "Oh, America wouldn't do that," as time went on, we saw that America is capable of doing that, and especially to its own. So, to be naive and gullible to think that our country has our best interests at heart. As time goes on, we're seeing that what made America what it is slowly deteriorating. Slowly deteriorating. And those that are adamant about the Constitution, our civil rights, our freedoms and stuff, we're seeing that that's being compromised. And it's either being restricted or being taken away altogether. And it's raising a just concern. Anyway, that's all I got. Let me know what you guys think. Um, Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what points that I brought up that you may agree or disagree with. And until next time, until next video, peace.